That's where we're at.
You just need to go to Woot and pick up like whatever their cheapest option is.
Woot.
It is.
I hear nothing.
It
Woot
is
woot.
Amazon's.
You're not
hold on,
going to
let me-
hear
let me
anything.
find-
Oh.
Oh, you don't. Oh,
You don't
have your
hear us?
phone.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, I
I've
can
heard
hear
of
you guys.
Woot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I've heard of Woot.
I thought you hit the button.
No, I hit the recording button. I didn't hit the intro button.
It's
Oh,
fun
okay.
to say.
Yeah,
It is.
no. Woot is a very especially if you're wanting to get like deeper Amazon discounts. I buy stuff off Woot all the time. Like the most recent motherboard I have sitting in there, that's off of Woot. My media server motherboard, that's off of Woot. A bunch of HDMI cables and Ethernet cables, it's all off there. Half of the stuff out in my garden bed is from Woot.
I thought you did all your purchasing off eBay.
I do a lot of stuff off eBay, but I also buy stuff off Amazon and Woot and Facebook
This
Marketplace.
is just outlining to the people how
Whenever
much
he's feeling
purchasing you
extra
do.
sketchy, he goes to Woot.
It's 8th gen, but if you need something,
No. I can get him
No.
something newer than that for that same price. No.
Eighth, no.
Don't worry, Stephen. We'll get you something newer than your
That's
12-year-old
such a low
MacBook.
bar.
My desktop
that's
at
such
work.
a low bar.
Oh, I just realized you don't have it. What is it?
It's in the
dead?
bag. I just don't feel like
Okay.
getting it out.
Because
I thought
if
finally
he
bit the
if he
dust.
charged it at home, did the drive here, that means it's at like 65%.
I vote we use Steven as a
I
guinea
didn't charge
pig
it
and we
from
get
last
him a
week.
Oh, that means it's dead.
Nah, it might not be dead, but
It's
it
dead.
probably won't last very long.
It'll last like 2 minutes. It's dead.
No, I'm just gonna raw dog this episode.
Gonna bleed it out.
Just doing it live.
I'm so happy you're editing this so you can remove that.
Oh no, it's
we
staying in.
can get you a Chromebook. You could be the resident Chromebook user.
Oh my God, putting you to be the experiment to properly trial Chrome OS would be amazing.
Let's do it. I'll put money down for that.
I mean, this would be like me going with Mac.
If someone
That's
else
fair.
financed it, I would suffer through it for science.
For science. For science.
For the sake of the hostility.
Matthew, if you can go ahead and go to Free Geek and just grab the first Chromebook you see.
God, it's not even gonna be a current Chromebook.
No, why not?
Oh my God.
But
we
are there
didn't
really
put
that
any
many
caveats
current
on this. We just said
Chromebooks?
we would get you a Chromebook.
Yeah, no, you're.
It would
you are
be
correct.
it would be
That's-
newer than your MacBook.
You know,
Look.
if it was an older Chromebook, it would actually be more realistic of what you're actually going to see out in the workplace of somebody bringing their own device too.
Depends.
Like onboarding a new client kind of.
Our clients, yes, 100%.
I was gonna say, no, Ian's 100% correct in
Yeah.
that statement.
Yeah.
100% correct.
Okay, that's fair.
Hold on, it's Prime Day. See what Amazon.
Okay. Well, yeah. No, there's probably a considerable amount on there.
All right, well, you research that. I'm gonna hit the button. Welcome to Hostility Morning Show. I'm your host, John, joined here today by
Nathan.
Matthew.
Steven.
Ian,
Ian. You're alive.
I am alive
You're back.
temporarily.
A little bit. It's good to see you, man. It's been a little while since we've seen your face, heard your voice, and been able to really pick your brain about these hot issues and topics that we are attempting to coherently discuss.
Tempting is a good word.
It very much is an attempt.
Hot topics.
Very hot topics. And on that note, Nathan,
How are you going to make that transition?
no idea.
Well, okay. Well,
Remember your middle school days when you first... No, I'm kidding. We're not going into hot topic. All right, Nathan, can you go ahead and at least brief us on what we are attempting to discuss this evening beyond Ian's, mannerisms over here?
all right. The main topic for today, and we'll see how long this goes. I expect this to branch out to multiple other topics, is career advice for high schoolers. Now, I'm sure as soon as I say this, many of you are immediately picturing that idiot at either the store's checkout or who took your fast food order today. Fill in the blank. That's not who we're talking about here. What we're talking about is the kid of say like your niece or nephew or a good friend who has either a kid or a niece or nephew of their own, somebody like that, the progeny of somebody you care about, and that person comes to you and says, "Hey, my kid's looking to get a career in IT. They're really interested. They're, we'll say, juniors, maybe seniors, something like that." What is your advice to either that parent slash guardian or the kid themselves? And
Question.
Yes.
Does this parent slash guardian or child value their sanity?
That they are too young to understand this.
Perfect. They're moldable. So sure, yeah, get them in IT. Why not?
Isn't that how we all started?
Actually,
Sane and
Yeah,
happy? Yes. At one point in time, we were.
yeah, all that's gone now.
So with those, do the caveats make sense?
The caveats can make sense
Um,
in a context of how we're attempting to have a conversation. Sure, those caveats
so we're
can
looking.
make sense.
So we're looking to impart wisdom or suggestions in order to help a youngster get on the right foot to have a successful IT career. Is that kind of where we're
Well,
going?
the
with
rest
this?
of us are going to try and do that. I don't know what you're going to do.
Yeah. Well, I don't either.
That's
I'm
part
still
of it. And so you can take this however you want, but part of the equation
Sure.
is going to be as of right now, what are some hardware you recommend they get? What are some
All of it.
certificates that you recommend they
All of them.
pursue? What are some books? Not YouTube.
None.
So not necessarily YouTube. Now, if there's like a YouTube channels or something like that, fine. But I'm not thinking YouTube videos. Most of them, frankly, have probably already been mining YouTube for stuff.
Formal protest.
I am thinking.
Wait, are we sending the kid on a worker strike already?
Yeah. Step one: learn how to strike.
I'm thinking something. Well, that's not entirely wrong. I'm thinking along the lines of like Udemy courses or something like that. So not necessarily not Google searches, not Reddit searches, not YouTube searches, but specific information that they may or may not have stumbled upon themselves. Because I'm also thinking of this in terms of like for me when I was young, it would have been nice if I had somebody to give me specifics like that, and I didn't. So you are able to, and I'm sure many of us here probably did not necessarily have specifics. Matthew doesn't really count because he had me and my hand-me-downs.
So I'll kind of start this one off a little bit because this has been a topic that I've actually been asked about numerous times and something that I wish I also had a little bit more clear direction growing up because I did grow in a house full of technology. My father worked as an IT director for many years, was always around computers growing up and things of that nature. So I was familiar with them, but I didn't really have a very well in-depth knowledge of like the inner workings, things of that nature. So when you're talking about someone like a high schooler, middle schooler, things of that nature of who's really kind of wanting to start out their career into IT, the best advice I can always give them is, do you have a computer right now? Yes or no? If you do, great. That is your best resource you have at all, especially if it's a desktop. Because here's what I'm going to tell you right now. Either if you don't have a computer or if you have one or you only have one in your house, there's many ways for you to get a spare machine in there. Get a computer, learn how to open it up, take it apart, pull everything out, put it back together, see what you broke, fix that, boot it up, learn how to install an OS on there, or if it has an OS, learn how to do some inner workings to it, break it, learn how to fix it, and then start building your knowledge base kind of from that point. For you to really succeed inside of IT, the greatest tool is always going to be the computer you're sitting in front of. Because that's where you're going to do the majority of your work, that's where you're going to do the majority of your research, and that's where you're going to have the majority of your familiarity inside of that workplace is right here and right there. And there's lots of different courses on there from self-taught YouTubers to specific like Udemy courses. Like everyone's going to throw out the A+ cert. The A+ cert is fantastic if you literally have no basic knowledge at all, because it's a very generic certification. It's going to walk you through desktops, laptops, mobile devices, printers, even some basic server information, network information. It kind of encompasses a vast wealth of knowledge right there, but that can be overwhelming for someone who has never experienced any of this before. So start at the ground level, learn what that desktop computer can do first, and then start seeing where your interests guide you from that point forward.
I would add a addendum to that.
Okay.
I like that advice, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. Based on the parameters, at least that Nathan laid out, where the time, the age that we're talking about for the individual, I would almost classify that advice to be a tad bit younger. I would say that that's great advice. If again, the goal is we want this youngster. They've expressed interest in technology.
Mhm.
We want them to go into an IT field and an IT career and be
Mhm.
successful and like really get a good strong start. I'm saying that's like do that in middle school, junior high
Yes.
school. Because at the age that we're talking about, junior, senior in high school, um, my first recommendation would be get your A+ as soon as possible, and mostly to get it out of the way. Because I am one that firmly believes that that is the foundation cert that every IT professional should get, because I feel very strongly that no matter what area of IT, even if you know, like if you knew in the very, very beginning that you wanted to be a cloud engineer, just hypothetically,
I know,
right?
hypothetical, sure.
I'm just one of those that I think that the most effective, the most effective people in their fields are the ones that started from the bottom and worked their way up and understand, understand everything up to where they are. They have that backlog of experience. They understand from the simplest of help desk and things like that, and everything in between, all the way up to where they are. They progressed like I'm not knocking those that, you want to be a cloud engineer. So you go straight into studying cloud and you understand everything about cloud and you go straight into that track and you skipped help desk and analyst and all that stuff. Not knocking that, but there's a certain level of context and understanding you glean from that context by working your way up through the rank, through going in the trenches, working your way up through there. And so I do believe in the A+ as a foundational cert. Even if you're not using it necessarily to get a job, just having that knowledge that it contains and that full foundational base, I mean, you can go anywhere from there.
Well, because it at least exposes you to multiple different segments of IT.
Yeah.
Because again, it's not just focused around, oh, this is your desktop computer and this is a laptop computer. It goes into basic network infrastructure,
Mhm.
server infrastructure, print management.
It covers basics of cybersecurity.
Yeah. There's multiple different things in there where it'll allow you to go, and I guarantee a lot of our younger listeners out there who are going to be gleaming some information from this, you're going to learn about networking. You're going to learn about the new hotness of what all that is. And that is great knowledge to understand and to know. And there's a large career field that could be available to
Your
you.
next step is you're gonna want to be on the network team. You're
Ev-
gonna want to do. Everyone wants
Everyone
to do
wants
it
to be on the network team.
because all the cool kids do
Yes.
networking. Like it's just a thing we understand. Not everybody. Not we can't have all of the IT employees just on the network team. We do need some people to do other things besides network. Sometimes,
Like maintenance.
like don't just
No, but I kind of want to pivot a little bit and get Matthew's perspective on this, because this is definitely from the support side angle of, if you're wanting to jump into the IT career, support is one of the more, I would say, open and available to newcomers, because you don't have to have a lot of fundamental knowledge
Yeah.
to do a lot of help desk support, because a lot of it is you're learning on the job, you're being mentored. Typically, you're handling your tier 1. You're handling, and I don't knock anyone because of this, but you are pretty much the initial trash man, handling all the first coming tickets that come in, and it's being filtered through you up the rest of the chain. So you get to see a decent amount of what that looks like, but that's also not for everyone. So it'd be
Yeah.
interesting to see kind of if they were interested in like that computer programming or developer side, what would you kind of recommend for someone really trying to get started out in that field?
Um, I would say to build on what we've already discussed so far, I wrote down a bunch of different things. But the first one, I agree. Not just get a computer, get a second computer. Like have one that you can use regularly, and then have one that you can break.
It's kind of like having a daily driver car.
Yeah.
And then you can have
your project car.
your crap box car.
And, and what inevitably happens with the project cars is, your daily becomes a project car and you buy another daily. It's like with computers. You have your daily,
Okay,
then you
we're
buy
not
your
going
project.
into
And
John's methodology of hobbies.
it's okay. You now have 17 machines in one room. It just
You only
happens.
need a second computer. You don't need a second computer for each room in your house.
But it's so convenient.
Yeah, that's the first one because that's gonna open up so much because there's a lot of software things that you can do with a second computer. Technology wise, if you have a second computer, you can, like I already said, break it. Right, you can try installing different cards or something like that and see what happens. But the biggest thing is definitely on the software side. Play around with operating systems. Don't just install them. See how you can break them and figure out how to fix them. Let's see, the next thing I have here is learn your tools inside and out. And that doesn't matter what tool it is, right? Like it could be your help desk. You're working for a Joe Schmo office, and they use a lot of Word and Excel and PowerPoint, stuff like that. Learn how they work. Learn how they work really well, and you will be great at your job. There's also all sorts of other things that you could classify as a tool. Like if you want to support Windows, learn Windows. If you want to support Mac OS, learn Mac OS.
And one thing that we actually, I'm surprised we haven't hit on it. Two really important things when you're going through this journey. Write down and document everything that you have
100%.
done. And two, honestly, and this is going to help you a lot, take some communication courses. Like go read some communication books, because
That was my third point, was hone your soft skills.
there you go. Because one of the things that I always I can train almost anyone to become a pretty good to excellent technician, but it's really hard to train someone to be a good communicator at the same time.
Thoroughly agree.
Because especially in IT, you have the front of house people that it's, again, those guys that are great with communicating with your managers, your other team members, your project leads, and then obviously upper management on the ins and outs of what's happening there. And you also have those individuals there that's not their skill set. They are better in, the back end of the actual either server rooms or the help desk team or things of that nature, where they are that quiet voice, but is a very powerful individual there who has a vast amount of knowledge, but just doesn't know always how to share that properly. It doesn't matter. You can be either one, but to really kind of help put you further out there and ahead of a lot of other individuals in this career path, if you are able to communicate clearly the knowledge and skill set you currently have to offer, that will help put you further in front of that queue for you to get into this career field.
And not only that, but if you can incorporate, if you can learn yourself how to communicate effectively, in that way, and communicate what you know and what's going on, and then simultaneously learn to interpret and communicate between those different personalities. Be a chameleon in the sense of you can go downstairs to the dark basement where the back-end engineers live and work, and you can, they can speak their gibberish to you, and you can understand what they're saying and comprehend the information they're giving you. Then you can turn around and climb back up to the light where all the managers are, and you can effectively translate to them what the engineer told you, where they can understand it. You are on a upward trajectory.
If you can clearly just state to your manager, it was DNS, you're doing a great job.
Manager doesn't.
Exactly, but again, it's always DNS.
Well, that's true. That's unfortunately true. But yeah, no, communication's a huge thing. I know there's a huge. I think there's still, even though this has been, I think, effectively broken across the board. I think most people still have that stigma of, IT and developers and stuff, big nerds, really socially awkward, introverted, things like that. I mean, there are those. I'm not saying.
There's a reason why the stereotype exists.
Yes, there is a reason it exists. But even though, yes, we're dealing with technical things, very high level, analytical stuff, there is a lot more communication with end users on multiple levels than you would think. I mean, just there's a sense of customer service at almost every level of that space, because the nature of your job, whether it's developing software or managing hardware, the nature of your job is there are people that are doing things with this stuff, have no clue how it works. They have no clue how to fix something if it breaks, and you do. Therefore, you're providing a service to them in fixing things or configuring them in such a way that they can do their job, and that will require you to communicate with them at some point on some level.
I agree. So yeah, that
Well-
was
well
was
spoken.
Mostly,
Yeah.
like my 3 points was get a second computer, learn your tools inside and out, and then hone your soft skills. On top of that, on the programming specific side of things, I have some books that I can recommend. As far as a general recommendation, and these are books that I've actually read and appreciate. On the productivity side of things, Atomic Habits by James Clear. That one's great for setting up good productive habits for yourself, like understanding the kind of the neuroscience behind habits, and what you can do to reduce your bad habits, like not crazy things, but just little things like, oh, I pull up YouTube 20 times a day, stuff like that. Figuring out ways to hack your brain to not do that. That's a great book. Deep Work by Cal Newport. That's one that I actually just finished. That one's fantastic. I would recommend that to anybody here, because the information side of information technology is very important, and how we process information is not the same as how we process anything else. Like the technology side of things, there's a tangible start and finish if you are, let's say, building a computer, right? Like you put it together and then it's done, and it's very easy to measure.
Unless you water cool, then it's never finished.
Don't get me started on that. Now that I have 3 water-cooled machines, don't get me started on that.
Sorry,
Whose fault is that?
Technically, it was Steven's fault. He's the one who first convinced me to do it.
He's not wrong.
Steven, stop being an instigator.
I don't think that's ever been said on the show.
I mean, I feel
that's
like
no fun. What are you
I feel like John can defend himself a little bit and point a finger at Steven for instigating some of his crazy shenanigans.
The problem is he gives me an idea. I'm like, that's an interesting idea.
And you
then,
take it way too far.
Well, no, I hyper-focus on it, and I realize this
Well,
could
so-
potentially be a good idea.
And you take it way
You
too
have
far.
too much
Sure.
power, Steven. You have to wield
But
it
it's so
responsibly.
much fun. Have you tried it?
No, because he hasn't found something that's like really piques that nice little dopamine section of the brain. You somehow just like we worked together long enough. You have figured out.
I cracked the
Ooh, there's the little dopamine thing I know we can get him addicted to. Let's destroy his wallet this way.
Let me just take a screenshot of this real quick and send it to it.
The amount of times you've done that, I'm like, and immediately 2 weeks later, I've already bought it. You're the worst. I appreciate you, but my accountant hates you.
I bet.
So
back to Matthew's
the
book
information
list.
economy. So there's technology. You have something tangible. You
Information
have something
economy.
visible. That's what
Yes.
That's what he talks about here. Is
Okay.
the information economy. There's that, which is the trading. Forget the exact
Trading,
terminology, but-
sharing, and explaining information that
Yeah.
you currently hold.
Yeah. The other part of that is how you process information. There's not really a good tangible way to measure processing information, and that's where deep work comes in. It's the gist of it is it's the ability to focus intensely on something and produce information, if that makes sense. I would recommend reading the book because it does a much better job of explaining it than I did. But that's another 10 out of 10. I would recommend.
No, you
that
should
read.
totally do a Udemy course on that.
I might have a course. I don't know. I have to look that up. And then the third book I have here is Getting Things Done by David Allen. These are all productivity books, but this one is a almost like a counterpart to Atomic Habits, where it is a way of getting and keeping yourself organized. So to build on top of the information side of information technology, one of the things that I've run into and I would recommend everybody should do, John kind of mentioned it already, is write down what you're doing and what you've done. With Getting Things Done, it's write down things that you plan on doing or that you need to do. The biggest thing with the information side of information technology is managing cognitive load, right? of like you have to juggle so many things. Like Steven, you're working on 10 different tickets. You're trying to keep them all straight. How do you keep them straight? We already know that you use sticky notes on a good day. On a good day, but that's the idea, is that you write things down so you don't have to juggle that in memory. You can save it to the hard drive and then pull it back up
Yeah,
later.
because there also is something cognitive. Like when you take the act of physically writing yourself a note, there's been studies that show that that actually helps you retain that information much longer than, "Oh, I'll remember that later." It's an entire grocery list mentality of, I don't need to make a grocery store list. I'll remember it. Get to the grocery store, I forget everything. When you have it written down and reference in front of you, it helps that process. So especially when you're going through your IT career, your interest, or things that just intrigue you in general, having I want to do this, or I already did X already documented on your behalf, that's just one, it helps reference what you are planning to do, two, what you have done, and three, when you are going to those potential employers and trying to really sell yourself, sell your experience and what you have done before, it's all right there for you to be able to present to them. Pretty much building out your own portfolio to demonstrate, this is the value I could bring to your team.
But I actually have a pretty solid memory. I can remember quite a bit of things, and recall them quite well. Um, my problem is just my memories are like boomerangs. Is I take a piece of information and I commit it to memory, immediately gets thrown out somewhere. And so like soon after I need to remember something, like I may not remember it immediately, but then it comes back and then I'll be like, "Oh yeah, I got to do that thing." It's just I have like dozens of boomerangs going back and forth constantly.
So you put it in your hard drive cold storage, and the IOPS on that array is really low.
There's a bit of latency, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
I love it.
I-
And that's
I
very
kinda-
that's very accurate for you as
I
well.
kind of did that today, honestly. I was at a meeting this morning where we were doing a final walkthrough of a client's moving to a new office space, and we were just kind of going through checking boxes, doing some scheduling stuff, and I needed to verify. We're moving their racked infrastructure from their old office to their new one in August, and I needed to verify a couple pieces of equipment, kind of what they were doing, what they are, just some final things. And I told the point of contact, I was like, "Yeah, no, I'm gonna swing by y'all's old office or y'all's current office on my way back. Just check something. I'll be like 5 minutes." So I leave, go down the street, hit the circle, and I start going back to the office. And I don't get very far. I mean, I get 2 lights down and remember, crap, I gotta go to their office. And so I just had to do a little down and back and go. But that's just an example. I stated to the point of contact literally 5 minutes prior to that, "I'm gonna run back to your office real quick on my way." And then it just went shoop. And then before I got too far, it went shoop. And I was like, "Oh yeah, I gotta," yeah. So that's
You would benefit a lot from writing things down.
I think you would too.
I don't want to carry. I've tried carrying around a notepad in my pocket and stuff.
Well,
and I
you
just
have
get
a phone.
soggy and
Just use Samsung Notes. You said you use Samsung
Soggy?
Notes.
Hold on.
I got sweaty.
Okay.
I sweat.
I was about to say, like, what do you keep, like, spare water in your
I
pockets
just-
as well?
I am
like,
okay, that is one thing about just me in particular. Yes, I have some notes. Like I've talked
Mhm.
about it. I keep some notes on my phone. They're very, very random. If you saw what they were, they would make no sense to you.
They don't have to. See, this is one thing that I would
But
want
I
to point out before I
don't
forget.
like on a regular. But I don't like keeping that type of note in my phone, like a normal to do list, like a
Mhm.
normal. Because I don't like. It's hard to explain. This is the older person in me. This is the elder millennial.
Just
in
don't
me.
save it to the cloud,
And,
Steven.
no. It has nothing to do with that. It all has to do with tactile, with the act of doing.
Gotcha.
It has nothing to do with the function, the true function of it. It's simply the act of having to type on the phone keyboard
Mhm.
and format it the way I need to format it, and all like that. All takes to I can take out a notepad and write all of that down in the way I want it written
Mhm.
far faster than I ever can on
Get
a
a-
phone.
get
And
a-
I'm not carrying on the phone with a stylus.
we'll get like a Kindle Scribe or something like that.
I'm not getting a dedicated device just to do this.
But
When I
the
can get a
amount of
cheap piece-
productivity that you would get
when
out
I
of
can
this,
get a cheap notepad that I don't want to carry around because it's going to get sweaty in my pocket.
you
So
could
then
do,
I just remember things.
It's called Write in the Rain.
Do you not carry like a backpack or anything with you?
No.
It's called Write in the Rain.
I have stuff that goes in my pockets.
I need you to go ahead.
That
just-
I actually have not tried. I haven't thought about
You
that
should
as an
try that.
option.
I was gonna suggest just get cargo pants and just in the side pocket.
I need to actually get some more cargo pants because I'm a big cargo pant guy.
Remind
embrace the
All
cargo
these young
pants.
people can.
me when we're done. I have a place.
No, but see, I like the.
He knows a guy.
Again,
He
That
has
was
a-
cheap online.
He has a cargo pants.
It's,
Yeah.
it's
like
cheap
hookup.
online.
but are they the poofy ones from the early 2000s?
Depends on how much you stuff into the pockets.
I know, but if they're not, then I don't want them.
I know exactly which ones
You know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
If they're not American Eagle or Abercrombie and Finch circa 2003,
Or
I'm
the-
not interested.
or the Dickies ones that were like, I'm trying to still
No.
ride a skateboard, but I can't because my pants are too big. Yes.
Well, okay, yeah, but not like baggy. Not
no.
like the
No,
Jinko type shorts.
yeah, I know what you're referring
yeah,
to.
yeah, yeah. So if we're talking that, like, then I mean, hey, we can work on that.
So Matthew,
I don't
any-
You
think-
need to write stuff down, Steven. So the point that I wanted to make, and then I let Steven continue, was
This podcast is not about improving my workflow.
when
Okay,
you, well, this is good advice.
It's
This
your
is
turn.
not- this is not.
It's your turn.
Not a Steven
I was
intervention.
gonna say you're pretty far down your career path, but you can still benefit from some of these,
no,
basics.
a couple of those that does sound
Improve your
interesting.
habits.
I may look
I
into
would
it.
recommend all three of these books, and we'll probably put them in the show notes. But
We
the
should do
the
that.
point that I want to make on writing notes, I did not write notes for the longest time because I was kind of like you. I can just remember it, right? I was pointing to Steven for the listeners. But I felt like, I
Very
just
judging
remember
of
it. I don't need to, same opinion, right? I don't need to write it down. I hate writing things down. I hated the act of physically writing. I preferred to type, and I also don't really like typing on my phone if I can help it.
Yeah.
So I get where
There's
you're coming
something
from
about
there.
that.
And that's where I got over it and I started writing and I'm waving a book's tablet in front of Steven's face. So I can actually write. But the thing to remember is that you're not writing notes for other people, you're writing notes for yourself. That right there, like, changed my outlook on note writing and everything, because it always felt like such a chore, of just like, well, I have to have it correctly, the grammar needs to be correct, the formatting needs to be perfect and all that. It doesn't have to be. As long as you can read it and understand it, that's what's important, because they're not notes for everybody else, they're notes for you.
So I can be passive aggressive in my notes.
Yes, you can use all the expletives that you want. You could use a Grolix instead, if you want to like censor yourself. It's entirely up to you. But the benefit that you get of emptying your brain into a text file or onto a piece of paper or something like that, you kind of have to try it to like understand. But just the load off of the mental shoulders is crazy. So yeah, that would be the big thing there, is on the information side of things, learn how to organize yourself and stay organized. And this looks different for different people. So there's not just like a one size fits all. And that's why I recommended 3 different books on this. But that's a big one, is being able to be organized. You would
And
have
that-
no idea how much that will help you.
In the
until
general
you
sense
do
of
it.
of this topic, no, I would wholeheartedly agree with you, because just from a this isn't always the most significant thing that you need to have your mind on, but just from experience and working with a lot of different people, there's a lot of these out there. You want to be the rock star. You want to be not just good at what you do, but like
Yeah.
people like working with you, because like you can be liked as far as a coworker just because you're organized.
Yeah.
You don't want to be that employee that everyone works with that they moan and groan about behind behind your back, away from you, because you're constantly disorganized and you're constantly forgetting things, and you're because other people are going to have to pick up your slack if you are habitually like that, and that can just lead to that can lead to unpleasantness in the work.
100%. And I think that falls under the soft skills.
Yes.
For sure. I could keep going on note taking. Like,
Okay, so do you have anything other than note taking?
I've got programming. So on the programming side of things, I've got 3 books that I would like to recommend. Pro-Git by Scott. I don't know how to pronounce that last name, but we'll put it in the show notes. Git is the source control. There's other platforms that you can use, but Git has like a
Like GIT
se-
Git.
yeah,
Yes,
there's
like
like a
like GitHub
75,
or
80% market share. Git is the version control software. GitHub is a platform that uses Git. What GitHub is basically is social media for
well, I was saying it's
built
technically
around
it's
Git
technically like a
repositories.
resource host for
Yeah.
all the different Git repositories that you have out there.
Yeah, this is something that you probably won't learn in you may get a class on this in high school. I'm kind of out of the loop there, but my
You'd be surprised actually how in depth a lot of the computer related courses high schools are actually offering. Now, like in our area, we actually have a dedicated technology based high school kids now can go to just specialize in that career field.
yeah. I would like to see the curriculum there for sure.
Same.
But like my college only just recently added a class on this, and I was almost like at the cutoff. But I would 100% recommend learning version control, even if you want to be crazy and you want to learn something that's not Git. That's fine. Just understand how it works and why
Start
it's there.
with version 0.1, then put an A on the end of it, then an asterisk, and then an underscore, and then
No.
a .00,
No.
and then a random another letter, and then put an @ symbol in there.
Do not do what he just
So
told you
so
to
much
do.
more than that.
Please
But
don't.
yes.
Yes.
Please
Anyway.
do not do that.
So that's one that I would recommend for a general purpose programming book, the C# Player's Guide by R.B. Whitaker. That's another great one. That is a lot of people like to dunk on C# because it is Microsoft's programming language. They open sourced it back in 2015, I think.
I can't remember.
It's been almost 10 years. Don't listen to the YouTubers that are dunking on it. And, you
It-
gotta learn
it's still-
TypeScript and JavaScript or
It's
whatever,
still
Rust, whatever the
very,
newest thing
very
is.
relevant to this day.
Yes. Well, it's also, I'm biased because this is what I use on a daily basis, but I would recommend this because it is such a flexible language, but it's also has enough safeguards to where a beginner can only shoot themselves in the foot so much.
Right. It's not like C++ where it's just like I
or
can now
JavaScript.
like I can just brick my OS because I put in the wrong syntax.
Yeah. For somebody learning programming, and this is something that if you have a Mac, if you have a PC, if you run Linux, you can install the tools for it. It's great. And
Just-
then go ahead.
Well, on that note, just because it's to my understanding so ubiquitous, like newer but fairly ubiquitous,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on in this context? Your thoughts on Python?
I think Python is a good language. I wouldn't recommend it to beginners, and it would take a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Explain why,
But just in general,
yes.
It is
this is a higher
it's a
recommendation
great
than that.
additional tool off of basic other coding programs because you can use Python for a lot of automation or scripting or building out there's so much you can do with Python on top of other languages that it can act as kind of like a mediator between multiple different avenues of how you're trying to run your application or compile the database or operate a script. That is great because a lot of again with Matthew can speak a little bit more than this with some of the scripting that's available in C#. It can get a little complex where it doesn't need to be, where Python can be much more concise on how it built its initial table.
With Python, you can do a lot with
Yeah.
Python. Like, don't get me wrong. If you just want to do stuff, Python's great. Like, I won't argue there. But if you want to learn how things work, I would argue that it's not the best place
Yeah,
to
And
start.
that's
Yeah,
fair.
I wouldn't build if you're trying to build like a specific just generic program, I would not do it in Python. I would do it something like C#, C++, things of that nature first because it better teaches you the fundamentals of the building blocks of how that program is supposed to be compiled.
And that's a fair point and this may be just something to highlight. This is a more top level generic point. But to that example, in this stage that we're talking about a high schooler, somebody who's looking to go into this field, and they're early on, they're even less than green. You're not even in the field yet. During your learning phase and your learning process, doing things the hard way is good.
Yes.
Because doing things the hard way, it teaches you more than doing the latest, greatest, most efficient means of doing so. Like, for instance, like a flip side example would be like, okay, if you do want to join the Cool Kids Club and learn networking, right? Seriously, go to FreeGeek, go to some place and find a early 2000s Cisco switch and ASA and start reading and learning Cisco CLI and doing that command line, that way that they used to do networking, because if you can actually achieve that and learn it very well, you'll know far more about networking and how it works than most people getting into networking now, because it requires you to understand every step of what you're
Yeah.
doing. And most of the CLIs in network equipment now are based on that CLI language. With they simplified some things,
And
but
and,
by
and
and
they change a
large,
few variables, but
by and large,
it-
that was
it's mostly
the
the same.
foundation they
Yeah.
all come from. But that would be considered very much doing it the hard way, like unnecessarily hard. But you're gonna understand so much more
Yeah, and now's
after
now's
doing
that
that.
time to do it the hard way or to break stuff. Because I
Yeah.
will tell you this, especially when you're first starting out, break a bunch of stuff because you're gonna learn far more from your failures than you are gonna be from your victories.
Yeah, and I think that example can apply
Yeah.
to any aspect of
100%.
this that you can throw out there.
Well, because that, like, breaking stuff, the reason why we recommend breaking stuff, and I can speak for everybody here, is that when you break something and you try to fix it, you don't just give up, but you try to fix it, you're going to build your troubleshooting skills.
Mhm.
And that's just crucial. Right next
Yes.
to the soft skills, being able to troubleshoot something. You don't have to know everything, but being able to work through an issue and figure out the solution, that's
And being able to replicate that.
yes.
Yeah.
One of and I still don't have an answer. I don't know the answer to this, but one of the subjects that I've pondered several times in being involved with I've been involved in the final stage of interviews for a new employee 4 times now. And the thing that, and I've told my boss this, well, my previous boss, 2 or 3 of those times, uh, I've sat and I've pondered, like literally just sat back in my chair in the office and just thought about, okay, what is a good way? And I did a little research as well. But what is a good way to interview for troubleshooting skills that apply specifically? That would apply in my case to tier 1 through 3 field services, IT field service. Because that is like, I would any day of the week take a new hire that has less technical experience but a sound troubleshooting methodology.
Yeah.
In every day of the week than somebody who has years of experience and a lot of technical knowledge and sucks at troubleshooting. I will take that trade off every day of the week.
Anybody can,
Because you can teach the person who has the good troubleshooting methodology, you can teach them what they need to know.
Yeah.
That's not that difficult. But actually teaching someone who's not good at troubleshooting how to troubleshoot effectively
yeah.
is very difficult.
Well, this goes back to our discussion, like what, 3 or 4 episodes ago on at least my definition of a normie, like the task memorizers, right? Anybody can take a to-do list and work through step by step. Almost anybody can. The troubleshooting aspect is when you go from step 3 to step 4 and something breaks, something doesn't work. How do you fix that? That's where being able to troubleshoot the in between and get back on track is going to put you way farther ahead from like what Steven here is describing, with people that have the experience. They know the manual by heart, but they can't necessarily bridge the gap between a broken step
because
3
they
and
hit
step 4.
they hit their own, like, you step in, you have this process that has step 3 to 4, and between step 3 and 4 it breaks, right? Well, your job is to step into that in between those steps and figure out why those didn't work. And there are some, for certain things, there's written down steps to troubleshoot in between those steps, right? And so you go down your step by step of troubleshooting, but then you hit your own gap of between steps 15 and 16. It's like, oh wait, but this didn't work. This is supposed to work. That's when your troubleshooting methodology comes in, and you have to think outside of your own to do your own checklist to figure out why the thing that is supposed to be doing the thing is not doing the thing.
Yeah.
Because usually when we're involved, I mean, everything has a purpose and has an intended, that this is the thing that this is supposed to do, right?
Mhm.
When you get involved, it's obviously not doing what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
Right? Because I've worked and I've heard people say, it's like, oh, well, that's not supposed to happen. Well, no crap, it's not supposed to happen. If I was involved in this, then it would be happening the way it's supposed to, but it's not. Therefore, we have to figure out why.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, just having that nailed down and having a solid troubleshooting process is super critical. I would actually, I mean, and again, like you said, breaking things, just trying stuff out, that's really how you develop that. I would put that above education, frankly. If you're going into this specific.
Okay. So interesting information. Send me that book.
Yes.
Please do. Thank you. All right. So as you all have been talking, I've been thinking, Ian and I have, I would say, a somewhat different perspective in the sense of we don't deal with either hardware or really software from a creation or maintenance standpoint. Now, both of us, Ian actually way more than I do, we know way more about computer hardware than most people do because we've actually messed around with it. We've built computers, Ian, way more than I have. So we do know a lot there. Ian, if you have anything you would like to add to any of this, go for it. But once you're done with that, I'm very curious, since you're in data analysis, if some kid is an uber nerd and loves Excel or something like that, and they know what, and they've heard
They can
about
build a
data
Gantt chart in
analysis.
10 seconds.
They need to join the Excel Olympics.
If
Actually, that's kind of fun to watch.
It
What
is.
these guys could do is actually insane.
Yeah.
if they enjoy
Torturing themselves.
data and stuff, if they find it looks fun, and I would actually encourage kids to actually look at this because it's not a popular thing to do. You're going to have a much better market for a job. And so, comments on what these three have said, and then recommendations for a kid. And I would say even like starting points, because it's something that everyone's probably heard a little bit about the rest of this. That part no one's really ever will have heard. So like starting points, etc. So there you go.
Yeah, I'll just say what these other three guys have said is really good information. It can be applied to just about any field, whether it's technology or outside of technology. I would say that the core skill is communication. It is not actually your hard skill. The soft skills of communication, interpersonal relationships, building relationship. That is your core skill. You can anybody can learn, like we've already said. Some better than others, but not everybody can be that go-to communicator and able to speak to just about anybody. So, like for example, for me, I spend probably 55 or 60% of my week talking to people. I don't actually spend the majority of it developing dashboards or cleaning data models or creating data models, cleaning data or anything like that. It's talking to people and talking to both the technical side and my stakeholder side of basically being the translator for the engineer to the stakeholder, because the engineers aren't always the best. There's a lot of them are your stereotypical, I'm an uber nerd and I know what I'm talking about, and they really do, but they can't communicate that at a level that most people can understand. The only thing that I would add to a kid just starting out is, before you even decide which direction you want to go, whether it's programming, IT, hardware, software, anything like that, find out how, or identify how you learn the best, because everybody is different. Some people are extremely good at auditory learning. They can just listen to an audiobook or a YouTube video or something like that, and they'll be able to go recreate something. Others have to do it. I am one of those. I have to see somebody do something and say, okay, that makes sense. Let me go try it. And then that's where we go back to the fail and troubleshoot method. You see something, or for me, it's you see something, you do it, you get to a point where it breaks, and that's where you have to figure out, oh, that's where I went wrong. This is where I go from there. Other than that, I think these guys really nailed it, and we spent a lot of time going over it. So I'll go ahead and move on. Getting into data analytics is hard. It is not even just data analytics, just data related programming in general. Whether that's a data engineer, data analyst, data scientist, a machine learning programmer, anything like that. If it has to do with data, it's hard to get into right now. And it's hard to get into simply because the resources that you need are either abhorrently expensive. I'm looking at you, Tableau, where it's I hate Salesforce.
The kind of thing that you're not going to learn outside of being employed at a company.
Exactly. And not only just that, but you almost can't. Like you either have to be at enrolled in some kind of course where you can get a student license for Tableau, or you're just not gonna learn it. Or I take the back. You can go to a website like Data Camp, where they give you essentially a VM with with Tableau on it, and you can access it that way. But again, it's not exactly cheap. $300 a year. So for your average high schooler,
Yeah.
that ain't exactly cheap. They do run sales for $150 a year, so that's nice. But
That's still
again,
considerable, like you said. Yeah.
yeah, especially for again a high schooler, we're talking 16, 17-year-old that may not even have their own job, and unless their parents are paying for it, they're probably not getting it. But with all that said, it is completely doable. I would recommend that anybody that actually is looking to get into this realm starts with and this is gonna be funny after what Matthew just said about Python, but starts with Python.
I don't disagree. Like, and it's choosing the right tool for the job.
Mhm.
For that aspect of data science, Python is a great way to get started
Mhm.
because it is so ubiquitous.
Yeah.
There's so much learning material. If that's what you want to do, that's great because you're not necessarily focused on the programming aspect, more just the data manipulation, all
Right.
that. One side note that I would like to put in there is for high schoolers in particular, and then it extends into college too, is don't get too hyper fixated on one single tool, right?
No,
Like,
I totally agree with that.
the reason why we've spent so much time not talking about specific tools is because ultimately they don't matter at this stage of the game.
Mhm.
Until you get hired somewhere and you know what they use, having like on your resume, oh, well, I've used, Tableau because my parents are rich. That's not necessarily going to get you in the door where you want to go.
Mhm.
But being able to have the soft skills, the troubleshooting skills, all that, that's going to get you a lot farther. Anyway.
Yeah, definitely. No, and I actually, for outside data analytics, I completely agree. Don't do Python first. It is the definition of overload for any kind of new person.
100%.
There are so many Python libraries out there that if you try and start learning it just willy nilly, like, oh, I'm gonna start programming, and you start going into Python, and you're like, oh, I can just call this library and this library. Well, eventually you're gonna be calling 12 different libraries, and none of them know what each other's talking about, and they just don't work. But for data and analytics, you have like four libraries that you can really go to: Matplotlib, PolySci, Scikit, and pandas. Those are probably your four go-to libraries, and you don't need to use any.
Yeah.
Just that, so you're good.
Your
Um,
scope is diminished and you have something to reasonably focus on.
Right. And then it's gonna sound really funny, but go to Wikipedia, start learning machine language, or not machine language, yes, but large language model building machine language with large language model. Wikipedia is an oddly good source for all of that information. It is very up to date. People keep up with it. I think most of the pages are updated at least weekly, and a lot of it is stuff that you would find in something like an O'Reilly book.
Yeah.
It's really good.
If you have the money for it, a subscription to O'Reilly would get you very far.
Yeah.
That's a huge library.
Mm-hmm. But I would also say don't be afraid to chase data analytics, because there are ways to get into it, and it is. I think John mentioned it was either John or Nathan mentioned that it is very in demand right now, and your marketability is high.
Yeah, I would say
Yeah.
that as far as a just in general successful career path, that's one of the hottest things going.
Mhm.
Especially data analytics, but the machine learning uh, route in there, the large language model, just manipulation
Mhm.
is apparently a great job to have.
To tell you just how insane it is right now, and I will say this with the preface of this is one of the highest paying entry level positions I have ever seen, including in this field. I applied for for an entry level position at a company called Headway this past Friday. Uh, as a data analyst with 1 to 3 years experience, that was 1 to 3 years of experience with some basically with proof of knowledge that you have done data modeling, visualization, stuff like that. $147,000.
Whew.
Now,
Okay.
with that being said, according to the LinkedIn statistics, there were over 2,000 people that applied for the job in less than a week. 77% of them had a master's degree, and 536, I think, was the last number I saw. Of those applications came from someone who is already in the senior, but it was being marketed as an entry level job.
Interesting.
So don't go and think you're going to get this right out of high school
Yeah.
or college, let alone high school. But that's the kind of craziness that this field is seeing right now.
Yeah, that's interesting because that's like what the cloud was just 4, 5, 6 years ago. Was you were seeing entry level jobs like starting at that 120, 150,000 because everyone wanted that big push to the cloud. Everyone wants to integrate things. I mean, that's the same thing with AI and all these new modern analytical tools where you can directly integrate it into your existing databases and be able to pull these nice flashy reports and be able to have a lot of uh, just great integrations across the board with your entire organization. So I get it. I understand it. Yes, but you do need to set what the real expectation is. Is like you coming just either out of your uh, coding boot camp or college, or if you're self-taught and you have this large portfolio of all these projects that you've done, that's a very hot market right now. And a lot of these positions that it's still available in IT are still very hot and kind of difficult to get into. So you really have to learn and hone yourself to be able to differentiate as much as you possibly can. Try to figure out, unique ways to make your resume stand out, make yourself stand out. If you need to go take some classes or go to community college and take a communication a course occasionally on how to interview, how to answer questions, how, those types of things, they all help. This is never going to hurt you in this type of career field. As we kind of explained, your soft skills versus your hard skills both are complementing each other to help you be the best individual you can in that role.
Mhm. I think one of the things that especially helped me the most transition is as a reminder for everyone out there, I started in agriculture. My degree is in agricultural spatial technology, and basically it's data for ag. But I had to transition out of that because I no longer live in an area where large ag uh, is prevalent, and I had to make some kind of transition. So one of the things that as I was looking for this transition was something you get constantly asked in an interview is what is your or what do you expect your compensation to be? Basically, how much do you expect to get paid? And I came in with a very reasonable number after researching uh, what my experience was, what my level of expertise was, and I came in with a number that was um, lower than anything you'll see on something like Glassdoor or Indeed or anything like that. Those websites have absolutely terrible averages. Anything that you see on there, you should probably reduce it by 20% roughly to get an actual accurate number of uh, especially for entry level job of an actual pay scale. But it's showing in the interview that you're coming in with a reasonable number, and not just reasonable but well thought out number. Um, shows that you're willing and able to do the dirty work of finding that actual information instead of just believing the first thing that's shown to you. That is a skill, not a lot of people have
Yeah,
or
you
willing
can
to
think
exert.
critically about the situation the situation through and through, not just on the surface.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I'll give this. I've got a hot take.
Okay.
I feel like I want to end this off here on a hot take. I think it's a valuable position or opinion to have, but um, I've grown to feel this way more in the past, through my especially once I got into IT this career. But if you're looking to go into, there's exceptions to this for sure. I would say, like the points that you've made, data analytics is certainly an exception to this opinion. But I think that the IT field at large and the coding and development field at large would fall into this, and that is if you're a junior, senior in high school and you want to get into some part of those fields, don't feel like you have to go to college and get a computer science degree. 100% don't feel that way. Now, I will caveat that with, you're going to see jobs for, IT special, IT this, IT that, or developer, whatever. And they'll say on there, they'll have the default bachelor's degree as a requirement or a prefer. That is something that people are looking for. But from as far as a useful thing for you, that is not required, because by and large, you are going to get your best knowledge and your most relevant experience to show to employers through certifications. That is in our field what shows I know how to do this.
Or in the terms
Uh,
of programming or portfolio.
Yeah.
Portfolio,
'Cause-
okay.
Because
Uh,
I'll be completely honest. Like I've landed some very difficult and fairly decent high paying roles with an associate's degree in criminal justice.
and that's kind of the one little caveat to that. And when I say don't feel like you have to go to college, I mean that literally. Don't feel like
Yeah.
you have to go to you don't have to worry about, oh, well, I've got to get into this 4-year university because they're
You
known
don't have
for
to go
this.
to MIT to
You
get
don't
a
have
job
to
in
you don't have to
IT.
go that traditional route of college in order to be very successful in the technology fields. I think data analytics would be an exception to that because of the points you laid out, of just the access of the education you
Yeah.
need to be successful. But like there's things like WGU and their IT degrees that they offer. You can get I think a more useful bachelor's degree from an online college like that,
I can
because
vouch for it so
they
far.
will provide you it's tailored to whatever IT field you're looking to go into, and the courses themselves are certification courses. And by the time you get your bachelor's degree, you already have at least like half a dozen certifications or
Depending
something
on the degree plan.
that
Yeah.
are pertinent to the
Yeah.
area that you're going into. So it's a double whammy. I mean, you get like everything you need to walk into an interview with your resume and say, "I'm ready to do this."
Yeah.
Uh, but even then, just if you're looking to get started, go into that entry level job, don't even feel like you need to enroll in WGU. Like, get the A+ cert while you're still in high school.
Yeah.
Get that. I mean, the $100 or something to take it. Save up. You can have that foundation. Before you even leave high school, and then maybe look at the next step certification so that you can land a better entry level job, or move up very quickly from that entry level help. Entry just sucks. Let's just put that out.
The less time you spend at help
Yeah,
desk,
you
the
want
better.
to be that person that joins the entry level help desk and shines immediately and is noticed by the management, and they want to jerk you out and put you in a useful position very quickly.
I'm very thankful that was my
Yeah, that
experience.
ideally that's the circumstance. But just don't think you have to look at these fields in that traditional sense where I've got to go to my state university because they have a good computer science program, or I've got to go out of state to this other state, this other university because they have a really good computer science program. Computer science degrees aren't useless, but computer science degrees are not tailored for they're not tailored for being successful in these fields as they are in reality.
In most cases, yeah.
I just want to say I completely agree, even for data analytics, that you do not need to feel that you should and have to go to college. You can 100% get a job just by learning how to create a large language model. If you there are so many public data sets out there um, that you can use, manipulate, and basically, like Matthew was saying, create a portfolio that if you just do that and you master that, it doesn't matter what kind of like visualization software you have. You can go in and go in as a data engineer and not have to worry about any of the visualization software ever. Um, but the visualization software is helpful. There is a helpful, what am I trying to say? Is a helpful thing to have on a resume, just because it shows that you have experience with
That's
it.
going to be the thing that hiring managers going to know.
Mhm.
They're going to know what Tableau is. They may not know how to work it, but they're going to know what Tableau is. They're going to know just what those softwares
If they're worth their salt.
Yeah.
But even then, Power BI isn't that hard to get. It does cost money, but you can still get it as relatively anybody.
So I have two kind of end comments, and that is one: you can get services relatively inexpensively for a lot of what we're talking about. Matthew mentioned a subscription to O'Reilly's. For those of you who don't know, that's like one of the primary sources for official information in the IT world.
So this is, and the subscription, because I actually did some digging on this, and the organization that I work for is going to provide us with this. But the what they provide is not just access to their books digitally,
Which is huge in
which
and of
is
itself.
it's huge in and of itself. They provide access to pretty much any publisher in the IT space that you can think of. I am not kidding. Like, their library is astronomically extensive. It is crazy to me, and they only charge like $50 a month for an individual license.
That's not bad.
It's not when you have like 30,000 books, and these are
But
not
when you look at
just
something like CBT Nuggets or the big, I mean that's more than that, isn't
Stack Social and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that
it's
significantly more.
Significantly
quality
more.
information is the
Yeah.
thing.
So that's one thing. The other thing is, well, part of that, if you are in the position of this is your child, this is the kid of somebody that you care about, etc., either yourself or encourage have part of, either you have part of your budget, have part of their budget. Maybe if it's your decent sized family, maybe chip in for like Christmas or something like that. Get them one of these subscriptions or something like that, because they're not going to learn this in school. If the child is in an alternative learning path, whether it be co-op, homeschool, even certain charter schools, other types of schools, add this into their quote unquote school. And from an education standpoint, I at this table, I have the least amount of schooling of anybody here. I am still highly educated because I've worked very early on the soft skills, but also I've gotten as far as I have, and this is something to encourage the young people, is the youth. Is that either if you're a kid listening to this, or you're taking notes for a kid you're going to be talking to, do the jobs no one wants. One of the best lessons Matthew's my father ever taught us, and what has probably paid some of the biggest dividends, was take the jobs. And I don't necessarily mean like get hired to do, but in the job you have, especially if it's like help desk or something low level, in that job, find what needs to be done that isn't being done and do it. Typically, it's going to suck.
Find the
It's
dirty work.
there's a reason no one's doing
You're
it.
there's a reason no one's doing it, but ironically,
Be micro. Somebody's got to do it.
I did that very early on in my career, and I am now working at a company that made a position for me because I focused so much on the certain couple of things that everyone hates to do, to where I got really good at it, and that in and of itself can be a very quote unquote comfortable career path, in the sense of, in some respects, it's a little harder for me to find a job. But if I find a job where they value my expertise, I'm gonna have a lot of fun, and I'm gonna make decent money. So that is, I think we could go on about this for quite a while, and I definitely already have notes down for a part 2 for this. But John, got anything else for us?
No, it's just if you're really looking to go into this career path, doesn't matter really, in my opinion, your age. You could be in any other field right now. If you're interested in IT, there is so much you can do right now in your free time with widely available resources at a very low cost that can get you in this door rather quickly if you're willing to just be a sponge. Allow yourself to absorb everything around you, look at everything that's currently available, and try literally almost every aspect of IT, from the development side to the support side to the analytical end. There is something that you can find your interest in and get very, very, very well into, to a point where you can not only set yourself up on a career path that can really provide a lot of fruit in your life, but also a lot of fulfillment in the work that you enjoy doing. So it doesn't matter where you are in your career, the best time to start this road is right now.
And even if you go down all those paths and try a little bit of everything, uh, even if you find something that you don't like, you try something and you're like, I really just don't enjoy this. Knowing something about that, having a little bit of knowledge about as many aspects of technology as you can will only help, because you will end up you will end up being on a project, being on a ticket or something that involves the team that handles that thing that you don't enjoy, but you will be able to effectively communicate with them because you have a little bit of you have a functional knowledge of that thing.
Well said. Steven, while you're speaking well, go ahead and close us out.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Hostility in the Morning. Where can you find us? Well, you can find us on X and or Twitter literally at Hit'em Show, HITM Show. Instagram and Facebook at Hostility in the Morning. We've got hostilityinthemorning.substack.com, where you can listen to our podcast if you just like listening to it. Or you can go to the YouTubes and you can watch a beautiful, if I do say so myself, a picture of our logo
Rendering.
with the pretty red ember background. If you just need something to stare at the whole time. And
And he stares right back at you.
oddly enough, all of these things can just be found at hostilityinthemorning.com, where we have links to all the platforms that we're on.
No, we are not doing Hostility ASMR.
On that note,
Have a hostile morning.